Hello and welcome to the channel. I am the Wizard of Alt and I am here today to talk to you about mining. I don't mean the mining of taking stone and precious metals out of the ground. I'm talking about Bitcoin mining and why I think there are some really undervalued opportunities within this space. Bitcoin mining, to put it quite simply, is essentially turning energy into Bitcoin through the use of processors called graphic processing units, or GPUs. Essentially uses a lot of power to run complex mathematical equations. When they get them right, you're rewarded a block. Simple. In terms of miners, I think there is a tremendous opportunity in this space, and I think there are several which are really, really undervalued. So I'm going to talk you through what my thesis is, what I've read, and what I'm looking at, and the levels I'm looking to buy. So grab a white monster and settle in. Let's talk mining. So, if you ask me why I believe mining is a great opportunity, I think it's a rare opportunity to buy some assets which, whilst obviously are mining what we all are here for, essentially a piece of sound money that can't be replicated. I think there's another opportunity under here, and I think that opportunity is also closely aligned with artificial intelligence. So the same units, these graphical processing units, are also used in these massive data processing centers which run artificial intelligence. Now, one of the big issues for these AI centers is power. They are also power hungry, and there are some poor issues with the electricity grids in certain regions, and one of the real issues that these companies find is that it takes a long time to either get connected to a grid or create a source of power and have the licensing to have the power. This can take years, if not decades, which is one of the real growth inhibitors of this sector. I read, and this was the article here that I read, that I found really, really interesting. So it was on VanEck, and it was by a guy called Matthew Siegel, and I recommend following him and keeping an eye on him, because for me, I find he's one of the best people I listen to in terms of that institutional angle for a lot of these cryptos and digital assets. And he published this article back in September about how Bitcoin miners were potentially looking to shift to AI to open up additional opportunities outside of Bitcoin. We know after the halving and the hash rates going up, it's harder and harder and more expensive to get these Bitcoins mined. And I personally think there's a real value in this, and Matthew also highlighted it here. So he said that potentially these miners shifting to AI will unlock the new revenue, and this could lead to an estimated just shy of 38 billion net present value if they converted 20% of their capacity by 2027. So as we look through here, we can have a look at some of the arbitrage. So there is a hidden understanding about the relationship that Bitcoin miners have to AI, and I think it's really interesting. It's not something that I've seen looked at, but these companies are very, very, very well positioned. They're connected to the grid. They have huge sources of power, whether it be that they're taking power on bought arranged agreements, or that they're producing their own. And with this power, they have the opportunity to work with some of the AI companies to really drive some value there. So if we look through here, this is where this chart here breaks up the estimated power capacity they currently have with the estimated power capacity they are targeting. And we can see here some of these names. So we go through, so we see BitDeer 895 megawatts and are targeting an additional 1600, twice what they currently work with. We see BitDigital 85 looking to bring on an extra 50%. And we look through here and some of the big ones. So we've got Hut 8 here, who are looking to double their capacity. The big one here is Iris Energy, who are looking to absolutely explode. They're looking to nearly 10x their current power capacity. And so we look through, and across all of these names, they're essentially looking to more than double the power that they currently have. Now this creates an interesting proposition, given that they have that they're looking to bring on all of this extra power, which can either be used to mine more Bitcoin, or they can utilize some of this spare capacity to bring on AI companies and bring in a second source of revenue outside of Bitcoin, which will likely diversify some of their revenue streams and potentially stabilize them and give them the ability to swap between Bitcoin mining and AI, and in terms of sort of what they're allocating to each use. And it gives a really interesting proposition. I think if we look here, we can see that they're estimating a $7.5 million per megawatt cost of conversion. So they can convert this over. Typically, these companies are very indebted, and you can see some of the desperation to try and get into this market. So we see here CoreWeave, who run data centers but are looking to bring more of their capacity, have done a deal with Core Scientific to expand their energy output. And we see here that CoreWeave are providing 80% of the capex and pre-financing Core Scientific's 20%. So essentially, these miners are getting limited risk capital to come in and really transform their industry. So it seems like for me it seems like an amazing opportunity to really push on. And then if we go down and we see this chart here, this breaks down the publicly traded Bitcoin miners, and we can see which ones are looking to add in this AI capability. So we can see that BitDeer is currently piloting, exploring. BitDigital already have that capacity. Bitfarms are piloting. Cypher Mining are piloting. CleanSpark, no plans announced. Core Scientific have already moved to this, and we covered their relationship with CoreWeave, who went public last week. We've got Hive Digital, who are already here. We've got Hut 8, who are already here. We've got Iris Energy, who we touched on earlier, who are already here and are looking to bring on significant amounts of power. And we can see here net present value of discounted cash flow using this 20% capacity converted. We can see just the sheer amount of value that this adds to the business. And a lot of this isn't incorporated into the stock price, given the exposure to Bitcoin. This right now, with Bitcoin down from all-time highs, these companies have followed suit, despite the fact that they've got this amazing opportunity on their front doorstep. We see Marathon, no plans announced, TerraWolf exploring that. So if we go and have a look at some of these companies and where they are now, if we open up the charts here, so we'll start off with IREN, so ticker IREN. If we zoom out on the daily, we can see it's a tremendous drop off. We see this pump here. If I zoom in, so you've got this big run up here when Bitcoin had its August run up, and we can see here the Trump pump as we go through. And then we'll just look at just how much it's fallen off a cliff since obviously Bitcoin and crypto has encountered some turbulence, shall we say. And if we look at the level that it sits at now, we've pulled back, so we're back into this range here, into this consolidation. Let me highlight it with a rectangle. So we can see, if you look through, you see compression here, you see some compression here. So if we were to open up a box covering all of this price action here, and we go back along, we see again, look, if we go all the way along, we see this is a really key zone. And if we look at where the price has come into, so it's come into this box here, how low will it go? I don't know. It could potentially come down and target this area here. It could potentially target this area here, or it could come and just sweep these lows and then send it back up. But this to me feels like a mega opportunity. If we go back to this and we see Iris Energy, that's a huge figure. If they were to convert 20% of their power to this AI system, that is a huge increase. A huge increase. So this here we could potentially be looking at, if it ran from here back up to where it was before Christmas, you're looking at 182% upside, which to me, for a fundamentally sound project, is really, really good value. I mean, considering the sort of state of the market that we see, if you believe that this AI opportunity exists for these miners, these just seem like really, really, really good value back from where they are. Even if we go lower down to here, this for me still feels like a really, really good region to buy, especially when we look at up here. Obviously, none of this is financial advice. You should always do your own research. I'm just saying what my thesis is and what I believe is the case. But I feel like this is an opportunity, I think, definitely worth exploring. We can see we'll look at some of the other names. So if we look at who else has the big opportunity. So if we look at Hut 8, for instance, and where their price is, again, look, zoom out, you've got obviously the biblical run up from COVID, but it's back into this zone of accumulation. If we go over here, it goes all the way back to there. You can see this area here where it likes to come down to, it likes to consolidate and it likes to shoot up. We have blow off there, big Trump pump, blow off there, and it's come back to accumulation. So this again, if you believe in that opportunity, provides some good exposure. If we go back, so what else is worth looking at? So if we look at the next biggest one that is producing, so we look at Core Scientific, who we covered earlier. With CoreWeave basically covering all of the costs for their expansion. So if we go on Core Scientific here and we look at this for a chart, we can see this one's slightly different now, given the lack of price history we've got. We see this zone of accumulation here and a big pump up there, and then a solid run up here. It's fallen back to this area, and I think this is a really interesting area, because I think there is some risk here, because you've obviously got gap here, and there's not a whole lot in this area. If we look at, we can see it's come back, it's tested this area, but it's never managed to push through. Now, this presents an interesting option should it continue to pull back further. And I must say, a larger element of this pump was on the back of news of the CoreWeave deal. So when the news came out, you saw the big pump, and now you're seeing a lot of the news sell off as we see Bitcoin continue to fall. But it just feels like this is back again to a great opportunity. If you look at if you look at the people who had the chance to buy here, they got a lovely run up, even from where we are now. So from $7, 160% upside, and it's the same with all of these. So if we go to Hive Digital, it's the same chart. We're back into this zone of accumulation after big blow off tops, and it fundamentally comes down to if you believe that this is a good opportunity. And look, we're even below this massive area of accumulation, so we can see that you've got an accumulation zone here, big expansion, blow off top, nice bit of distribution down here, and we see some little bits of expansion, but the amount of accumulation that has gone on, we're looking at about 3 years of accumulation within this range. It's dropped out of the range back into this pre-COVID accumulation range. This again feels like I think we will see a run back up to here. Probably not. However, at the price it is now, if we look at the price it is now, 148, and we go to Trump election night, 283%. If we go to 2023, 375%. If we go to August 2022, it's 416%. Hell, if we even ran up to where it's all-time high, you're looking at nearly 1900% on this asset. And it's the same with all of these. So what other companies have we got on here? So those are the ones we've got: Bit Digital, BT, and if we look at this it's the same story. Look at this, back into this accumulation range. Now, it's an interesting one because this just provides a huge amount of risk reward opportunity. Like even within this range. So if we expand this range up to here and we see all of this activity inside the range, this thing back to where it was pre-Trump, or as Trump got elected, 229%. If we go back to the 21 bull run, 1000%. If we ran all the way up to all-time high again, 1800%. So I think Iron is a stock to look at. I think H8 is a stock to look at. I think Hive, I think Cause. I mean, any of these, it's the same story. We see this pullback here, back into this range. Clean Spark, similar. And if we look at TerraWolf, which they're not currently exploring, but again, we're back into this accumulation range. Now, I think Iron is I think out of all of them, I think Iron probably presents a mega opportunity. Given what we've seen about the power that they're bringing on board, I think this presents a really, really good opportunity. I mean, all of these are fantastic. And I put them all together into a pie, diversify, chuck a little bit of money in each month, and see where it goes, because it potentially we may see a big expansion. Even an expansion half of there, you're still looking at a fantastic potential return. And I think we're at a really interesting time, certainly in crypto, but also from a wider perspective. I fundamentally believe that artificial intelligence is still misunderstood into just how impactful it will be in changing the world. I think people have yet to really harness what the power that it could lead to is. And its main constraint is hardware and energy. And these are companies here which have the hardware and have the energy to be able to provide some of that expansionary opportunities. So if you enjoyed the video, like, subscribe. If you'd like to see me break these down into more specific levels I'm looking at, drop a comment and I'll I'll do a live stream and I'll show you me marking them up to levels that I think are quite good to look at in terms of entries and exits, and where these could potentially go from a closer lens. But on that, I wish you a fantastic day, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.